we always have in mind that the main goal of companies is to sell the equipment. And we wanted to do something else where it doesn't involve us trying to sell the equipment. It involves more like trying to see if it has a meaning for someone or not.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 100. That's right, I've logged my 100th podcast. I want to thank all of my previous guests for trusting me enough to provide a forum for their story. And I want to especially thank all of you for listening to the show. There are so many choices today, and I am humbled and appreciative by the support and the patience you have given me as I learn about this medium and about the industry. The show has registered more than 175,000 downloads to date, and by the end of the year, I hope to hit 250,000. And with any luck, in the next few years, I'll be able to say we've reached 1 million people with stories of how you're using drones to make a difference in the world. I'm not going to do anything special for the 100th show. No retreads of past shows, no long lists, no cameo appearance of previous guests. I'm going to do what I've always done, and that's talk to someone who's doing something really interesting with the technology. So on this 100th episode of the Drone Radio Show, the question is, can we really have an impact? If you ask today's guest, he would show you dozens of people who are doing just that. David Rovira is the Regional Manager of SensFly, a drone manufacturer and services company based in Switzerland. He is also the Director of Drone Adventures, a nonprofit comprised of SenseFly employees who banded together to make a difference. Their goal is to demonstrate and promote the great potential of drones to protect our planet and support local communities. David is here to talk about Drone Adventures, how it was formed, some of the missions that have been undertaken, and how a group of like-minded employees are using their passion for drones to make a difference in the lives of people and communities across the globe. Before we hear from David, would you like to get a Drone Radio Show coffee mug or a shout out on Twitter? That's just two of the fun rewards you can receive by supporting my funding campaign on patreon.com. As you know, this podcast is free, but there are production costs, and Patreon provides an easy way for listeners to support the show. Join the team for as little as $1 per month. Go to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show for info. But for now, let's get to today's guest and hear how Drone Adventures is changing lives.
I'm David Rovira, and I'm president of Drone Adventures. It's an NGO that does projects with introducing the drone technology for disaster relief or disaster response or management of critical situations.
How long has the organization been around?
Drone Adventures has been around since 2013, and it was basically employees from SenseFly. SenseFly is a company that manufactures drones for professional use. And in 2013, the employees of SenseFly decided to create an NGO to introduce this technology for humanitarian purposes, doing short projects to test and see if the results are making any change or not.
That's interesting. Is that a common practice in Europe where employees band together to form an NGO?
Not really. This is the only one that I know that actually was formed like this. The good thing about it is that all of us either work or have worked for a long time in SenseFly, and we're in contact with the technology the whole time, and we have access to the latest technology as well. So it's helping a lot to make the projects and to present the technology in disaster relief situations.
The notion that employees started the NGO themselves is fascinating. Can you tell us more about how it got started?
So basically, it was one project that we did to try to map a mountain here in Switzerland, the Matterhorn, one of the highest mountains in Europe. So we went there and said, well, we have access to the technology here, so we're going to go and try to map it. So a bunch of people from SenseFly went to the mountain and did the map of the whole mountain and 3D reconstruction. And this was a huge success. We had a lot of people asking for data set and then asking us how we did it and what was the purpose of it. And basically the purpose was only to introducing that this can be done with the drones. So the people that were in that mission decided afterwards, why don't we try to do more missions like this into areas that really need it. And they formed together an association that went afterwards into an NGO in order to do short trips. So basically our trips are only 1 or 2 weeks in the field. And we don't do a service to anyone. What we do is we present that it can be achieved using drones. We don't want to be a service provider.
So you're more of a proof of concept type of organization.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about a few of the areas where you've demonstrated success in using drones. Which ones come to mind as a real showcase application?
So since 2013, we've done like over 10 missions all over the world. And there isn't one that I would pick as the main showcase, but I would talk about the one in Tanzania that is one of the best successes that we've had so far and the longest mission we've done so far. Basically, how we operate in joint ventures is that we are not paid to be in the organization, or the organization doesn't need any funding to run, which is a huge change compared to the rest of NGOs. Because here we do it in our vacations. We're 25 people in joint ventures that we all work full time. So we're getting paid anyway. During our vacations, we do the missions. So that's very good for doing concept of proof, because the people that are going to profit from that, they don't need to pay anything. They pay for flights and accommodation, and that's the only cost. So it's a completely different scheme than any other NGO that needs to go through grants, funding. For us, it's very, very quick to develop a mission. So the mission about Tanzania, it started in 2015. We were there for 2 weeks in March to try to prove if using drones, we could have a model for flood resilience. So what we needed to do was trying to get the model of flood of an area that gets flooded year after year, and see if we can have an elevation model that shows us which are the riskiest zones and where are the zones where, in case of flash floods, we need to evacuate first.
Are we talking a large area?
That was a quite small area, around 50 square kilometers. So we were there, and then we start mapping. We did the whole area that was demanded by the World Bank. This was a mission that we were called from the World Bank. And after 2 weeks, we gave back the 3D model, the elevation model, and they were actually able to identify house by house which ones will be in danger in the next flash flood. So it was a huge success for the World Bank and for Tanzania itself. It was in Dar es Salaam, the capital, and it was in one of the poorest zones of Dar es Salaam.
How many people went to Tanzania?
This mission was done by 2 people. 2 people 1 week and 2 people the other week. And basically, it all started because one person in the World Bank called Edward Anderson, with which we still work in several missions that we'll talk about it later, had the idea of, well, why not trying to use technology for that and try to innovate? So he sent us an email. I need to prove if this case is usable with drones or not. And he's very technology-oriented. He's the head of risk disaster unit in Tanzania. So with that mission, we went there. We took 2 drones.
What type of drones?
These drones are EB drones, so they are fixed wing. We're not talking about helicopter drones. Every time we talk about drones, people see in their minds those small quadcopters. Here, we're talking about fixed wings, so they're like a model plane, which has a meter wingspan. They're made of EPP, and the weight is 700 grams. So there is no risk of breaking anything. Whenever it lands, they will not break anything or put anyone in jeopardy. That's why we use it in these situations where we have to fly inside the cities in difficult conditions. So we went there, 2 people for 1 week and then another 2 people for another week, and started mapping using the EBs and processing on site. So we take 2 drones, around 15 batteries, and we take as well 1 processing computer and 1 tablet to actually control the drone in the air.
And what software do you use for mapping?
The control software is done here in SenseFly. It's called Emotion, and is the software that controls all the SenseFly drones, and is developed in-house. Basically, the people that are developing this software, we have 4 people that are software engineers that go into the missions as well. So we have some of the missions that are done with the latest firmwares. That's one of the key points, because we're always bringing the latest technology, the latest firmware there, the latest drone if we have an upgraded drone, in order to tackle directly the problem that there is in that specific region.
Did the World Bank take any action based on the results of the analysis?
Yes. In that mission, whenever they received the full data set and they reconstructed the flood model and identified the housing, they presented it as one of the next or future generations of technology use for the World Bank. And they asked us as well to keep on mapping and help them map a little bit more. So we did another 100 square kilometers in Dar es Salaam to try to identify more zones at risk for flood modeling. And then they went back and say, well, we need to try to finish as much as possible of Dar es Salaam. But that was a big mission. We were talking about 2-3 months mission. So we said, like, this is not the actual purpose of Drone Adventures. We want to introduce technology, but we don't want to be service providers. We believe that service providers need to be local, and we need to actually empower local communities to use this technology. That's why we're there, to show them that it's easy to use, that they can do it themselves with very little training. So the drones are completely automated. You don't really need to be a pilot. Just input the coordinates in the software, and the drone flies, takes pictures, lands, and then you collect the pictures. So what we did in this case, because it was very important for them to have a flood map of the whole Dar es Salaam, well, we need to train the local communities. And what I'll do is another mission, a longer mission, but instead of giving you the actual result, I will train a group of local people on the data acquisition, and they will be the ones that will jump into that mission and finish it themselves. So we agreed into having a whole new mission together that was going to happen in Zanzibar. So we moved to Zanzibar, and there we have been mapping for the past 4 months with 10 drones, 25 people trained, both local government and students from the university. And they now have completed 2,100 square kilometers themselves. So there we have 25 operators that have over 600 hours flight each on the drones. So they're completely trained. For me, they are better than most of our normal clients. They have more hours of flight than an average client. So they are the ones that are now finishing a base map of the whole Zanzibar and moving to Dar es Salaam to finish the capital. Because I choose to go to Zanzibar first to train them, because in this project of Dar es Salaam, there was already a budget. And I want these people that I have trained to profit from the budget that was in Dar es Salaam, so they now can be paid and have a full-time job by operating the drones over there.
And plus, they pick up that skill that you've imparted so that afterwards, if they want to continue with that, they can.
Exactly. So basically, what we have now, they already have the drones there. They know how to operate it, and they're building their own companies in order to do service, which was the main goal.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
So that's one of the biggest success stories that we've had so far. Still, we are creating the first base map of Zanzibar since 2004, and it's 7-centimeter resolution. The latest one they had was, I think, 25-centimeter resolution, and it costs around $2 million to make it. For our mission, I think they spent 10 times less than that in order to pay people, inland, and equipment, because they are processing their own images as well. So they're both operators, but they know how to make the analysis on the data and creation of 3D models, orthomosaics, and interpretation of them.
Is there another mission that comes to mind?
We have several other missions. So we've been, for example, in Philippines right after the Typhoon Yolanda, and we did an assessment of the situation. So that was 2 weeks after the typhoon. We were there to try to see what was the destruction and if there was anything standing in some remote areas where we have no access. So we used the drones to fly over those areas to see if there was actually any sort of house that was still in place or any signs of life, to see if we needed to create a path for the emergency units to go through it and reach that town or not.
In that particular instance, did you learn anything about using drones in disaster situations that you didn't know beforehand?
We learn in every mission about our drones, about ourselves, and about when to use it and when not. In this mission, for example, in Philippines, we learned that right after a typhoon, you have very small windows to fly the drones because the winds are still quite high and there is rain. So in rainy conditions, there's no point on flying because all the pictures that you're taking will have drops of water. So basically, you will not be able to reconstruct afterwards. That's one of the things that we learned there, that you have a very small window after a disaster like this to operate the drones. So in your mind, you go, it's like, well, I'm going to stay 2 weeks flying nonstop. and then I'll cover that much. But then it's raining, it's windy. You need to know that you're not going to reach your whole target because of weather conditions. In the Zanzibar mission, we learned that it's not efficient to do 2,000 square kilometers. It was not our goal, but if you're going to do such an area, you're going to use satellite imagery. Here, where we wanted to get, it's people trained, and we did it because of that. Drones are basically used for monitoring. That's where they're good at. That's where they're efficient and cost effective. When you need to monitor an area, it's free. Once you have the drone, you can come back as many times as you want to monitor the area and see, well, I'll come every day and monitor the changes in this environment, or I'll come every month, or I'll come every year. And then you have several sites that you need to monitor. That's when it gets very interesting. Or for flood purposes, you need to see how the cities expand and how everything is changing. Because we're talking about developing countries, which the growth, it's enormous. So within 1 month, you have new houses, new plots. So you need to monitor that because it will affect your flood model, or it will affect environment, it will affect urban planning, all this.
What other lessons have you learned?
There's tough conditions where we fly. We did a mission in Namibia for animal counting, which is very difficult because we needed to fly in a time of the day where the sun was at its highest. So we had very long shadows of the animals, so we could identify them by the shadow. Because if you fly very close to the animals, they will start running, and then it's impossible to count. If you fly quite high, only looking at the shadows, you can see which animal is which. Because they're stationary more or less, then you can count them easily.
How do you decide which missions to undertake?
It's a very, very flat hierarchy in our organization. So once we have a mission that is interesting, it's about the whole group saying who is available, who wants to do it, and who finds it interesting. And then if there is someone who says like, well, I find it interesting, I want to go, then it's done.
Now, the individuals that are going are using their vacation time to do this. Do they actually get an opportunity to have a vacation while they're there, or is it just work?
It's work, but it's a different kind of work. So basically, people that are here working, they are not most of the time flying every day. They are either working on software, working on mecha, I work on sales. So there's nothing to do with flying a drone. It's a completely different experience. So when we're there, it's the same as a vacation for you. It's tough. You're in a very tough condition, but actually you forget everything about your work life or anything. So it's a good break. Sometimes we get maybe 1 day weekend where you can profit and see some of the stuff. But we try to fly as much as possible when we're there.
I see. And actually, if you're going at a time when there's been a disaster or when the community is stressed, the typical tour sites are probably not really available at that time anyways.
Exactly. It's a different kind of trip. So I don't think anyone goes with the mindset saying like, well, I'm going on vacation. They're doing a mission which will you learn a lot from it, and it will be a complete new experience. It's a break from your work. And then you have another week for vacations with your family or friends somewhere else.
Tell us who else is involved with drone adventures. SenseFly is the primary organization for the staff. Are there others?
Not for now. So we're not integrating a lot of external companies yet, because we want first people that really know how to operate the drones, because they need to go there for a mission. They need to be very efficient. They need to know how to operate it. And that's why it was mainly done within employees of SenseFly. SenseFly, it's letting us use the equipment, but it's not involved on the running of the NGO. They're not involved at all. So there's no management of SenseFly in the organization. It's basically something that was spontaneous from employees in the company that got together. So it's running completely independently from SenseFly.
And you've done some work with We Robotics.
Yes, so We Robotics was founded by two people that were founders of Drone Adventures. So Adam and Sonia. That's why we keep a very, very good relationship with them, because they founded Drone Adventures in 2013. And now they moved into We Robotics, which actually is very complementary with Drone Adventures, because we do the first phase where we train on the use of technology, and they do the later stage where they establish a lab and they create sort of environment for people to start using the drones and have them accessible locally. So we do a lot of missions together. Now We Robotics is establishing a lab in Tanzania after that mission that I explained.
Let's shift gears a little and talk about your background. What's your history with the drone industry?
It's a very short history, to be honest. Drones have not been here for a long time either. I was working in the financing sector, and some people that I knew were working here. I was always very interested on drone technology. Well, at that time, the company was created in 2009, so around 2011, I was talking to several employees here, and they were not even called drones yet. They were flying objects, unmanned vehicles. And I was always very interested in trying to get together, and they explained me a little bit more. And once they had an opening, I was like, well, I'm ready to quit the finance sector and move to drones. And I've been here for 3 years now.
What did you do when you started with SenseFly?
So in SenseFly, I started directly in the sales team, but I was in charge of a platform called Drone Connector, where we connect clients that want to have the service with our clients from SenseFly. So for example, if you have a field and say, well, I don't want to buy a drone, but I want someone to map my field, then why don't we redirect them to our clients that are actual service providers with the drones? And that's why I created the Drone Connector.
Why did you get involved with Drone Adventures?
My motivation was equally for SenseFly and Drone Adventures. So when I entered SenseFly, I already knew about Drone Adventures. It was being created, and since day one that I started in SenseFly, I went directly to Drone Adventures to get involved. And I think my mission was, 2 or 3 weeks after I started here. I was always very, very motivated for Drone Adventures. We always have in mind that the main goal of companies is to sell the equipment. And we wanted to do something else where it doesn't involve us trying to sell the equipment. It involves more like trying to see if it has a meaning for someone or not.
And for your first mission, where did you go?
My first mission was Tanzania.
What did you like most about Tanzania?
I think the people. For me, the thing that shocked me most, and this happened just now because we're still finishing the Zanzibar island. When we think about Africa, you think about poor people that do not have access to technology. Well, the guys in the university that we trained, they were the fastest learners I've ever seen. In 2 days, they never used software like this. They never used a drone. They were already in the field, planning their own missions, going out, brave enough to fly and not have fear of crashing it. Very good. So very, very good. I was impressed by the people mostly, by how they're willing to learn, how they're pushing it. We're talking about people that are out in the field for 6 hours a day under the sun, 6 days a week. And they're doing it for free. They're doing it just because they want to learn. They want to be operators. And no one has told them, like, you need to finish the island or you need to finish this part. It was only, you need to get trained. We need to give you as much capacity building as possible. And whenever you feel ready, then you can build your company and then actually give service with the drones to other mining companies, land management companies. And they set their own target of finishing the island.
Other than the Tanzania and Zanzibar missions, what other trips have you gone on?
I've been in this one involved the most. So Tanzania, I did one in Uganda, and that was my missions because there's 24 other people that go in the rest of the mission. So that we've been in Peru, we've been in Turkey, in Japan for Fukushima, we've been Namibia, we've been Haiti. So there's always someone that goes to those missions. Now we have someone in Iraq mapping that'll have all the details whenever he comes back. So it's probably next week.
What are they mapping in Iraq?
Archaeological sites. So they're trying to get a 3D model of some archaeological sites in case they get destroyed or in case something happens or we're not able to see it anymore. So we're getting 3D models out of it and recreate it in 3D here.
How many people work at SenseFly?
Now about 150.
So that's a little less than 25% that's involved with Drone Adventures. And now you're the director of Drone Adventures, right?
Yeah, it's just a role. So we're basically, everyone has the same sort of role. So, but because we're an NGO that has to do some paperwork, we need to say who is the director. But basically, we're all the same level. So it's very, very flat hierarchy. It was basically Adam that left to go into We Robotics. And we were working together in Tanzania mission. And after that, he left to We Robotics. And that's why he said, like, well, why don't you take my role?
Does Drone Adventures have some upcoming missions?
We're always receiving emails with new missions. And it will mainly depend on availability from the workers here. So if someone is available, and so it says, well, I'm available for 2 weeks in May, then we see which mission matches the best. And then we always have people that are ready in case of a disaster. So if that disaster happens and they need us, there's always 1-2 people that have more flexibility and they can leave quickly.
Does everyone going on a mission have the same skills? Can they all fly and process data, or are their teams tasked to do different things?
Anybody that goes can fly and process. Usually, missions are done in pairs. So we have 2 people that, in case someone gets sick or the mission doesn't go, there's always 2 people in the missions. And if someone is new or hasn't got enough practice with the drones, he gets the chance during the mission to get more practice.
I think it's a great concept for people to be able to learn the application they're working on and to do something good in the process.
Exactly.
When people ask why you do this type of volunteer work, what do you tell them?
The impact, it's different in each mission. In some of the missions, for example, Haiti was one of the first ones that we did. The impact was massive. There was a riverbed that was flooding every week. And then the water that came out of that flood was infested and was one of cholera drivers. So we mapped the river and we discovered that there was a landfill that was blocking the water from flowing. Only by doing this mapping, and then they just cleaned it and the water was flowing again. It was not going out and getting garbage and getting diseases on the water. So it's a huge impact there on the local community. Then the impact that we have in a mission such as Tanzania, it's in a different scale. Here we have put the first stone for people to get trained, people to use it, and people to actually build a business upon drones and the new technology. And they have taken a frog leap from all other technologies. So those are people that had nothing to do with drones before, and they're now building a company on this new technology that has never seen in Tanzania. I think it's difficult to calculate what's the impact that you have. Every mission has a different impact. In Namibia, for example, we discovered an invasive plant that was having an impact in the animal fauna, especially elephants, because it was taking out the plant that was eaten by elephants and invading the areas with this bush that was nothing, that had no value for the local animals over there. It's different, but I think I would always encourage for someone to go out and do a mission like this. And if they have a drone or if they have any other technology, go and try it out. Try if it works. Some missions didn't work. Some missions did work. And I think only the value of trying and building capacity, local capacity over there, and showing people, well, let's try. There's nothing to worry about. We're going to be here for a week. We're going to try. If it works, fine. Then you have something to work with for the future. If it doesn't work, well, we'll find something else for you to work with. For example, we had a mission that didn't work. And we tried and we're running around it. We're trying to see if we could map mines that was in the soil after a conflict. Some of the mines are made of plastic. So we were flying with a thermal camera to see if we could see something on the soil or spot them. But some of them were made of plastic and it was impossible. So it was a failure, but at least this was discarded for them. So it's like, well, thermal imagery is not making an impact when looking for these sort of mines. So we're going to do something else. No, if people are interested on doing their mission, that they don't hesitate to contact Journal Ventures. They can see in journalventures.org, and there's a contact form over there. They can contact us, and then they will get a reply, and we'll study.
David, did we miss anything?
If it's feasible, and see if we can manage to do something there. Just small missions of 1 week. We're not doing any more missions over 500 square kilometers. It's too much, and we don't want to get people's job out. So we want to create actually wealth there and businesses that are working with it and service providers there. So we're not going to do long missions. We're going to do small missions. And then if people want to get trained, we'll train them there so they can continue and actually do their own mission. There was nothing that I can say will make you change your mind more than seeing actually.
And my final
a mission,
question, David,
actually just
suppose I joined SenseFly and was thinking about getting involved with drone adventures for a mission.
Being out,
what would you say to me?
Something that matters, which basically here everyone works on a daily job, and you're doing your job, you're doing it good, everything's fine. But whenever you start thinking, am I doing something that has an impact, something that matters? Sometimes you feel like it matters for the company, but it doesn't matter for anyone else. So doing these missions changes your mind completely. And it goes that step beyond where you feel that you're making something that is having an impact somewhere for some people.
That's it for episode 100 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed listening to David Rovira of Drone Adventures and learning how SenseFly employees are working to support local communities. I want to thank David for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Drone Adventures or want to connect with David, check out the website at droneadventures.org. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. Thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.